Well, a very good evening to you, race fans, and welcome back to Simple Racing Broadcast as we arrive at the grand finale of the AK Racing Gen3 Supercars Season 2 right here on the iconic and unforgiving streets of Adelaide. And there couldn't be a better time to be racing here, with Adelaide set to launch on iRacing service later this week. Tonight becomes the perfect warm-up act for that. A bit of hype, a bit of nostalgia maybe, and a brilliant reminder of why this circuit has such a special place in Australian motorsport. If you're excited for its debut on iRacing, then this triple race showdown here tonight is absolutely going to get you in the mood for it. My name's Jared Cole. It's wonderful to have you back with us, or indeed, this is your first time here. Welcome along. You have come in at an amazing time for AK Racing as we enter the very last round of this championship. Qualifying has just concluded. The drivers now getting ready to jump on into the first race server here this evening. And with three races on tonight, just about anything can happen. Of course, there is a few different formats that we'll be looking at here this evening. Race 1 will be an all-out sprint, 15 laps ahead of us. Then 22 laps of a full reverse grid for race 2, followed by the finale, 34 laps, another full reverse grid with a mandatory pit stop, and of course a compound change along with that as part of the mandatory requirements there. It will certainly challenge the drivers here tonight, I am certain. And we are in prime position to take a look at it all. So what does the championship look like as we get ready to go racing here this evening? Well, it looks a little bit like this after last round at Burno. We have Alex McEwen in. Look, he's in a pretty tough spot, or rather a tough spot for anyone to beat him. 1,677 points. He holds a strong advantage tonight over the rest of the field. The podium fight, though, absolutely alive just behind him, with Matt Cotter sitting on 1,483, then Nick Mello on 1,462, and Scott Garrick on 1,414. And of course, with 300 points on offer for the winners total across the three rounds tonight, there are a couple of different versions of outcomes that could be in play here this evening. But we will have a look at that in between races, I am sure, and we will get set to go racing very, very soon as the drivers are jumping onto the grid as we speak. So plenty of drivers on track for this one tonight. It should be an absolute cracker of an evening, I suspect. Alex McEwen and Matt Cotter qualifying at the very front of the field for this race this evening. So strap yourselves in, because we are getting ready to go. We'll get on down to the track now, and we will await the start of this first race. Beautiful day here in Adelaide, 25 degrees the air temperature, the track temp 31, so a little warm, but all in all should be a pretty good day of racing, I would expect. We've got a very, very full field here. We've got, what, 20 cars total. Just having a look down the list that I've got here in front of me, running all the way back to the back of the grid here. Alex McEwen and Matt Cotter at the front, though. We wait for the lights to go green here as the starters' orders come through. Oh, and a bit of a jump start for one of the cars there, but we are absolutely underway. And that does look like Nick Mello, who's had a massive jump start off the line there. Alex McEwen will try and track him down as they go through the Adelaide chicane for the very first time, and not the ideal start. I don't know if he's just dropped the clutch a little early, but Nick Mello, I am certain will get penalised or have to serve something for that massive jump off the line there. Nick Mello well out in front now, but won't last long. Alex McEwen and Matt Cotter lead the rest of the pack behind him, as Matthias Falzon, Scott Garrick coming through in effectively third and fourth and fifth on track right now. Brandon Pearce, Nathan Hughes and Stephen Warwick immediately behind them as we make our way around Adelaide for the first time. 15 laps, not a lot of time for this field to get itself settled in, sorted out and on its way. And you can see just how close we're coming to the walls here. There was plenty of chaos in practice as the drivers did try to negotiate these tight canyons that we see around here, and no sooner do we say that, we see Matt Cotter having a bit of a moment into one of those walls, recovers it nicely and hasn't lost any position as a result, but could have been much worse for the championship front runner. Alex McEwen just ahead of him looking very, very strong to start his race here. Nick Mello coming through to serve what I'm sure will be a drive-through penalty for that massive jump off the line there. And you can see Cotter trying his hardest to warm those tyres up as we make our way around for the first time. Not a bad start for the rest of the field either. Fairly composed, you've got to say. It was, all in all, I think a reasonably clean start right throughout the field. But most of these drivers now just settling into this rhythm. You can see quite a gap back here to Clayton Waters in 13th, who he heads up Simon Ellie, Brody Barber, Michael Forrest, Ian O'Brien, all in hot pursuit, but a long way back to these guys here from Brandon Pearce, who's just had a bit of a moment. Nathan Hughes there, sorry, just getting it a little bit wrong and running off into one of the stoppage bays. He's going to be caught up very, very quickly by Waters. And I tell you what, there's plenty going on throughout the field. Justin Fullis we see again this week. He's getting right into it. A big hit of the wall there for Nick Toppins in the Supra, and that'll cost him just a little bit of pace, I'm sure. Justin Fullis not finding a way through, but right behind them, have a look at the move from Brandon Pearce as he goes through on Dylan Penton and picks up 10th spot. Plenty going on already at this early stage, and these drivers wasting absolutely no time in this first sprint race here tonight. I hope you're all enjoying it and strapped in with your favourite beverage, folks, because we've got plenty of this racing on the way for this evening. Alex McEwen and Matt Cotter out in front continue to extend their lead over the rest of the field as we see this mid-pack battle going on. Nick Toppins and Justin Phillips now side by side as they come across the line to start their third lap. And in the background, the rest of the field just starting to make their way around the corner. Contact there as they make their way through the hairpin, the chicane even. And you can see that Toppins has had definitely the worst of it. He's going to lose another position. But behind them, Benny Asplin sideways in the Supra, ends up facing the wrong way. That's an awkward spot to be caught in. Hopefully he can get it rolling again before he gets too far down. And indeed does manage to come out just ahead of Clayton Waters, but he's got some work to do now to catch up. And you can see at a circuit like Adelaide, it's just, there's no room for error, and there's absolutely no room for the sort of door banging you generally see from the Gen 3 supercars. We saw plenty of it last week, but last round rather, but a much wider track for these guys to be operating with this time around. And indeed it is causing just a few issues as the drivers do try and negotiate some of these turns. Nick Toppins gets a little bit deep under brakes there, and that's going to invite Dylan Penton back into the battle. Brandon Pearce and Justin Fullis will take off around the corner and just start to extend their gap as well. McEwen and Cotter out in front, still locked in battle, and Matthias Falzon in third, very comfortable just in his own bit of track as they whip on through. Got to be so careful on that tyre bundle on the left-hand side of that chicane. Can very easily spear you off the track, and we've seen it a couple of times here this evening already. We'll keep an eye on Brandon Pearce and Justin Fullis just going at it there in your secondary window. But McEwen and Cotter locked right in here, and Cotter definitely seems to have the pace so far this evening. McEwen not managing to pull away very much at all. Falzon, Garrick, Mello all behind by some distance, and these two out in front really proving why they've been so strong throughout this championship. And this final round in Adelaide are really set to bring, I think at this point, really bring McEwen home for the championship win. I can't see many other ways that this is likely to play out, but it is mathematically possible still. So Matt Cotter's going to have to put in some very big efforts here, as well as hoping for some sort of error or mistake from McEwen that'll take him a long way back in the field. It seems unlikely from what we've seen of them so far, but these are of course Gen 3 supercars, and this is of course Adelaide, where just about anything can happen. The gaps starting to stack up a little. Matt Cotter sets the fastest lap now, and Nick Mello starting to reel in Scott Garrick not too much further down through the field as they come through the centre chicane for another time. Lap 5 now of 15, already a third of his way through the race, and the gap out in front just starting to extend massively as Mello tries to go around the outside. Now finds himself back on the inside for the left-hander. He's going to put everything into this, but Scott Garrick doing a brilliant job to just take up as much of the track as he can in the Supra, still managing to hold on, but Mello finds himself back on the inside. This is going to come to blows if they're not careful. Mello doing a very, very good job of just maintaining that little bit of distance to the Supra and keeping them both in the fight here. Nothing in it though as they make their way through. A big hit into the wall for Scott Garrick as well. That's going to give Mello just a little bit of pace advantage. Finds himself on the inside of this hard right-hander. Can he capitalise on that? It looks like he's going to. He's going to have to push hard to get out in front of Garrick. He's done it though. Gets across in front and now he'll hold the advantage as Scott Garrick becomes the chaser. Not a lot of room for that sort of error, and Garrick's found out exactly how quickly that can all turn around. Hayden Wallace, meanwhile, trying to put almost the same move here onto Michael Forrest, although a little bit further separated than the rest of the field. A three-way battle not too much further up from them. Ian O'Brien, Brody Barber, Simon L.A. all right into it, and a big moment there for Simon L.A. He's overshot the track, goes nose first into the side wall. Doesn't look like too much damage, so he's managed to keep it rolling and will lose a bit of time, but hopefully not too much off where he was prior to that hit. Managed to keep it going and hasn't had to come into the pits. And whether that's because he'll just carry this for the rest of this race or he just hasn't found a need to at this point is another thing altogether. We've now got Wallace and Forrest side by side. And it looks like Forrest is going to have the run into the chicane. Wallace backs out of it. Forrest, though, a big cut over that curb. I'll be surprised not to see him issued with some kind of slowdown there, potentially. You can see him getting heavy on the brakes. Makes a mess of that corner and allows immediately Wallace back through and ahead. So Forrest will have to put the head down and just try and recover that one. We jump back up front. McEwen and Cotter still at it. Still only a handful of tenths separating them. And McEwen's still controlling this one from the front, but Cotter quite content to just sit in for the moment. And not surprised to see that either. He doesn't need to do anything that will risk his second place finish in the championship here, because there are, of course, a couple of drivers that could really challenge very, very easily, as they're only separated by a small number of points. And if Cotter does make an error here that sends him towards the back of the field, well, we would expect to see that would cause a pretty massive upset, just in terms of this championship standings. Plenty of points on offer right throughout the field, and with such a big field, it's going to be possible for people to pick up a nice gap in terms of points if someone does find themselves crashing out. As we see here, Nathan Hughes still sticking to the back of Nick Toppins in the Supra. Toppins has a bit of a slide on the way out, corrects it, and shuts the door across in front of Hughes again. And this is one of the things about Adelaide. It can be so hard to break out of this when you do get involved in these tight battles. And what you end up seeing is quite a number of very, very close battles going on with quite a bit of room in between them. Look ahead to Justin Phillips. He's managed to pick up 3.5, almost 4 seconds on these two just by being out of it. Toppins overshoots the corner. Now they're going to go side by side. McEwen sets a new fastest lap. Toppins drops behind and Hughes will go through and pick up 9th spot. Jump forward to Brandon Pierce. He's on the back of Stephen Warwick, who really has done a great job of staying out of any kind of contest so far. It's been relatively calm for him. But finds himself now going to have to fight off Pierce over the next 6 or so laps. Not a whole lot left in it. McEwen and Cotter out in front, still maintaining only 3 or 4 tenths between them, but the gap to Falzon continues to grow. Oh, there's Warwick into the wall. The commentator's curse strikes again. Stephen Warwick finds the wall and it will drop 1 position. Justin Phillips now has a massive opportunity to try and close this one in as we jump on board. And Phillips, unfortunately, not able to close in quite as much as he probably would have liked there. Stephen Warwick potentially carrying a little bit of damage, but we'll have to wait and see just how much and whether he does need to come in and have anything repaired. I think he'll be okay for the rest of this one at least, but you can see there's a fair bit, and he's actually had issues with that corner again as well, so maybe a bit more damage than it appeared at first. As Warwick just struggles, the front right, you can see a fair bit of aero damage there, but that does suggest that it might be a bit of suspension work needed underneath that between races here tonight. Phillips now closed within a second, and Stephen Warwick's going to be counting down the laps as we get closer and closer to home, because Justin Fullis closing in very, very quickly, and I think he'll find himself under pressure in a matter of seconds. Dylan Penton now with Benny Asplin back in 11th, and these two have been relatively close together for a good portion of this race. At this stage though, Penton just holding the advantage and keeping that Supra at bay behind, while further back through the field, Ian O'Brien and Simon Elias side by side as we get to the centre chicane. A late decision from Simon to back out of that one allows Ian O'Brien through, but it does look like Elias got the better drive out from the chicane, and he slides it on into the corner. He's overshot that a bit, so that's going to cost him some pace. Ends up back on the inside of the next left-hander, so might get away with it, but nothing much in it. And Ian O'Brien just has to keep applying this pressure. And I think he'll be in a pretty good position to perhaps just force another small error like that if he can keep up and just stay on the rear bar of Simon L.A. here. McEwen and Falzon, and Cotter rather, continue to extend their lead. They are well out in front of the rest of the pack as they enter the left and rights of this first half of the circuit. And really absolute daylight for them now. 7.5 seconds to Falzon behind. There's just no contest at this point. Justin Fullis has made his way past Stephen Warwick, and now Nathan Hughes is looking to follow through and do much the same. He's got plenty of pace. Warwick really struggling with the damage to that car. It's costing him a lot of time and a lot of pace. And it looks as though Hughes is about to take the position from him as well. He needs a good run out of these next couple of corners, and he'll be well located to make a move on Stephen Warwick. And there it is, gets the drive down, a bit of a wiggle on the way out from Warwick is going to cost him even more pace. Nathan Hughes now goes side by side, he'll move past. Stephen Warwick drops to 9th, and unfortunately not a lot he can do about that one. A big hit into the wall for both of them there though. I think Hughes will be counting his lucky stars that Warwick followed him into the wall there, because it would have cost him that position immediately had Warwick been just a little bit tighter on that exit. Go now back to Brody Barber in 14th. He's chasing down Clayton Waters, who sits the start. Hasn't seen a whole lot of action here. They've really been the head of the rest of the pack for quite some time, as they do stack up back behind him a few seconds apiece, separating each of the drivers from here back to the back of the field in 20th. Keeping in mind, of course, that we're going to have a full reverse grid for the second race, which is going to make life very interesting indeed for McEwen and Cotter, who will need to make their way through an entire field of cars that have all been significantly slower than them tonight. It's held by just the intervals, if nothing else. We talk about race compounds and give you an idea of it. Everyone running on the soft compound here in race number 1 is not surprising to see. It is only a short one. So the question really will be who starts on the softs and who starts on the hards for that final race, given that it is a mandatory compound change. Do you want to run the softs first and then run out the rest on the hard tyres, or do you get out there and get the longer stint in first? Just some of the strategy that will play out later on this evening in that third race, but still another one to come in between now and then. Nathan Hughes and Justin Fuller starting to leave Stephen Warwick behind, and will be picking up their own battle in just a moment, I'm sure. As we start to get to the closing stages of race 1, it really does look like McEwen and Cotter are going to be absolutely unstoppable here. The real question will be how they stack up in that second race with that reverse grid. Will they actually be able to make their way through this field, or are they going to find it a little more challenging to actually make their way through an entire field of drivers? As it stands, just running in a pack here, what we need to start to think about is whether or not Matt Cotter is actually planning a move, or if he's just hanging on. Oh, big moment there for Matt Cotter. That might actually answer the question. He smacks the wall on that long sweeper. Manages to hang on to the back of McEwen somehow. But that might answer the question as to just how hard Cotter is pushing here, and whether he's got anything extra left to give in these final 3 or 4 laps. I don't know that he's actually going to have anything up the sleeve here unless McEwen makes a similar mistake. I suspect that McEwen's just been quite comfortably holding him at bay the whole way around, and that might be proof of it. It might not, folks, but we will get a pretty good view of it in the reverse grid if Cotter does get any kind of a lead. They cut across the chicane again to start lap 13. You can see up ahead just starting to reel in some of the back markers here. Looks like Nathan Hughes having just a bit of a moment as well. Dylan Penton has caught up to Benny Aspelin, so these guys will be getting into it as we come around to finish their 12th lap. And, Penton in the new Dare livery. I think this was a bit of a response to a couple of conversations that I saw going around on the forum, on the Discord rather, just prior to this round. So a new livery getting in there. Stephen Warwick having more issues. He's going to drop another position and maybe even another again as he gets sideways into Aspelin. Stephen Warwick and Benny Aspelin end up sideways. Dylan Penton ends up in the wall as well. So a big moment for all three, and Stephen Warwick unfortunately just getting caught at the worst possible time there by Aspelin and ended up sending them both into the wall. That's allowed Justin Phillips and Nathan Hughes to go through and actually pick up a couple of extra spots. So a late change in the standings here towards the mid-pack. Dylan Penton now finds himself ahead of Benny Aspelin. Clayton Waters has gotten through as well. Stephen Warwick relegated to 13th, and Brody Barber just on his tail also will be sniffing at maybe picking up one extra spot before we're done here. Lap 14 of 15, Alex McEwen and Matt Cotter still out in front. Their lead extending to almost 11 seconds over Matthias Falzon. Nick Mello right on his tail though. So this one yet to be decided. Mello, of course, pushing hard for those all-important final points in this championship. Just the 3 races to go here tonight, and that is this season done and dusted. Nick Mello's been right there and amongst it throughout. Scott Garrick a further 10 seconds back. Has not had the run he would have liked tonight. But he'll find himself with a reasonable haul of points here from race number 1 and a slightly better starting position than one of his top rivals for the second race. You can see Falzon just very carefully maintaining a defensive line here. It's not super defensive, but just enough to make passing difficult at a surface that is already, at a circuit rather, that is already a very, very tricky one to manufacture a pass at. Brandon Pierce just skimming the wall there as he goes in hunt of Scott Garrick. I don't know that he's going to be able to get there. McEwen and Cotter now onto their final lap already. So not a lot left in this one. Will we see a few last-ditch efforts? Nathan Hughes and Justin Phillips still going at it as well for 8th and 9th now as they've moved up through the field. Dylan Penton hits the wall hard behind, but he's got plenty of headroom ahead of Benny Aspelin. Clayton Waters still ahead of Steve Warwick. Brody Barber doing everything he can to catch Warwick, but just cannot close that final gap that he's looking for. And behind him, Hayden Wallace and Ian O'Brien still locked in at Wallace, still leading O'Brien, but only just for the moment. As we see McEwen and Cotter now coming around, they are just off the back now of Michael Forrest back in 18th, so not overlapping a huge amount of the field, but certainly keeping in pretty close. Alex McEwen, though, from start to finish has led this one and looks to be, as he rounds the final couple of corners, another one in the bag for McEwen. That makes him almost unbeatable now in the championship. We'll take a look at the points in just a moment, but that'll be it for Alex McEwen as he crosses the line, takes the win ahead of Matt Cotter. And a great drive. Matthias Falzon, a big last-ditch effort from Nick Mello. They're going to be side-by-side, a drag race to the line, but Falzon has the much cleaner exit, and he'll come home in third, just ahead of Nick Mello. Daniel Sharp, one of the few drivers all on his own at this half of the field, will come home in 5th. Or 7th. I'm not quite sure why Garrick and Pierce didn't show up on the tower in between, but Scott Garrick gets 5th, Brandon Pierce gets 6th, Daniel Sharp coming home with 7th, Nick Toppins a long way further back will be coming home in 8th, ahead of Justin Phillips and Nathan Hughes, who have managed to keep the battle going. Hughes is going to have a very last moment run. He's tried to go around the outside, can't quite get there. Benny Aspelin now up the inside, a bit of a smack into the door there of Dylan Penton. Penton does maintain the pace as they come up and across the line, and Dylan Penton will come home just inside the top 10. Benny Aspelin in 11th. Clayton Waters behind them comes home in 12th, with Brody Barber and Hayden Wallace right behind, as well as Ian O'Brien, who finds himself a fair way further back, just lost a bit of pace there. And that will wrap up race number 1 here in Adelaide. And what a way to start. Brilliant drive for Alex McEwen. He's going to go and celebrate that. Although getting a shot of him might be difficult where he's decided to place himself. There we go. There's always a camera that can find you. Alex pulls on up to the podium spots there. Keep in mind, you've got to hang on to those tyres for a little while yet, Alex. Matt Cotter's going to come and join him as well. You see a variety of interesting pit entries coming through there. But a great way to finish race number 1. 15 laps down, and McEwen and Cotter not too worried about their tyres, clearly. Because why not? Now, this is something we've seen elsewhere. Nick Toppins, he and I might just have a bit of a word later on. Nick Mello, rather. He and I might just have a bit of a word later on about whether he knows a certain driver from a certain league who does have a bit of a habit of finishing off a track in reverse at the end of a good result, because it looks as though he's decided to back it all the way down. Not exactly make it back to his pit bay, but you know, we'll let it slide this time. And we'll wait now for the session to finish up before we do get into race number 2. Hope you enjoyed that one, folks. Let's take a look at the championship standings and have a bit of a chat about just how this one might work out tonight. And realistically, McEwen needing just, 105, 106 points tonight to make his position absolutely unbeatable. With the 100 points from race number 1, that will pretty much do it. McEwen has just secured himself a championship win for season 2. The real question will be Cotter, Mello and Garrick. And with the results we've seen here, I don't think there's much chance that Matt Cotter is going to be unbeatable across the next 2 races, but he's certainly secured a pretty strong position with Mello and Garrick not finishing directly behind him in race number 1. So we'll have to wait and see just how that one does play out. But for the moment, folks, we'll leave you with a quick revisit of our AK Racing intro while we do get set up for race number 2. Hope you're enjoying this. Great time to get yourself, refill of the drink, stretch your legs, and we'll be back for race number 2 in just a moment. Well, welcome back, folks, as we get ready to go racing once again. And the driver's back on track. This time, 22 laps lie ahead as we go down to the track to get this one underway. Simon LA takes the front of the grid with this reverse grid for race number 2. Harry Brown in second ahead of Michael Forrest and Daniel Sharp. Then Ian O'Brien and Brody Barber with Hayden Wallace and Clayton Waters behind them. Benny Aspelin and Dylan Penton will round out the top 10. Interesting to see a few different tyre compounds here in race 2. 22 laps, not that much further than the first time out, but maybe just far enough that some of the drivers are thinking about whether or not the tyres will actually make it all the way to the end. At the back of the grid, Alex McEwen and Matt Cotter both on softs to start this one, so they're obviously feeling pretty confident that these tyres are going to make it right through, and a range of soft tyre options right through that second half of the grid. There's just a few of the drivers up front going for the hard compounds, so we'll have to see if that gamble does pay off for them. We're waiting on just the last couple of drivers to get on the grid for us now, and we'll get underway here for race 2 at Adelaide. That's the last of them on there as Daniel Sharp and Michael Forrest line up on row 2. We're about ready to go racing here, folks. So strap in, here we go. 22 laps lie ahead for race number 2. Well, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but we've had ourselves a little bit of a restart to the race start here by the look of things. So we'll have to try and figure out just what's happened. I think we're about ready to go again, but perhaps some issues with a few of the drivers further back through the grid and just getting out onto the track. I think we've got perhaps one or two still missing from the back. Noting that Dylan Penton is currently off track and awaiting a rejoin as well. Just checking in with race control now as they bring us a bit of an update on what's happening. And confirmation, just a brief driver connection error. We're good to go now, so back over to starters orders and we will be underway in just a moment. One of the joys of sim racing, of course, you never quite know what you're going to get when we do line everyone up here, but it does look like we are all sorted and ready for Simon LA and Michael Forrest to lead us off. Now just waiting for the starter to take over and get us rolling. If you're hanging out in the chat, do give us a shout, say hello. Hope you're enjoying the coverage so far, and hopefully getting a bit of an idea of what's actually going on around the place. Bit of a shout out from McEwen just earlier, but otherwise all quiet out there today for whatever reason. So I do hope you're floating around and enjoying the sights of Adelaide. Looking forward to seeing this one, of course, on iRacing in just a couple of days' time. So not much time to go before we will have this one finally available for the iRacing viewers as well. As we wait now on just the countdown in the background of the server at the moment. Still waiting to get rolling. Mick Nicholas, good to have you along with us, mate. Hope you're enjoying it all. We've finally got the starter getting the green flag at the back of the pack, so we are about to go racing. LA and Forrest off the front row will have us through to the chicane, and the question is what happens from there. No jump starts this time. We are away nice and clean. That's the green flag, and LA and Brown now lead us away. Sharp and Forrest immediately behind them. The drivers spreading out across the track as they try to find the best line through this first chicane. We've got a few having to jump the curb just to survive it, and not surprising to see that. It's an absolute ripper of a chicane to try and get through at the best of times, much less when we're 2 or 3 wide. Middle of the pack, and Hayden Wallace is finding himself in about the only clear air available As just ahead of him, Michael Forrest is struggling to maintain grip. Behind them, though, Clayton Waters, Nathan Hughes, Ian O'Brien still 3 wide. Clayton Hughes and Justin Phillips just having a little bit of contact there on the outside of the track as well. And Waters just sticking to the inside as best he can. Comes back across, big contact. Clayton Waters getting very, very sideways. Manages to keep it pointing in the right direction, just barely. But that's going to open up a bit of a gap at the back of the pack there. And you can see Matt Cotter already starting to work his way up through this pack. Ian O'Brien going very, very wide and out to the wall. Big lock-up for Forrest. Sorry, Harry Brown, actually. Oh, we've got contact here. Matt Cotter's managed to sneak through, but behind them, absolute chaos as Justin Phillips finds himself facing the wrong way. He's sitting there with Scott Garrick, and they're going to try and get this rolling again. Looks like Garrick just redressing that error, and I imagine there might have been a little bit of a touch involved in that. So all sorts of changes at the back of the pack. Down in front, Simon Elliott and Daniel Sharp out to a massive lead as Warwick, Wallace and Asplin come across the line together and head to the chicane again. A little bit cleaner and a little bit easier this time with a few less cars around. Harry Brown right in there as well off the back of Asplin. Nick Mello catching up very, very quickly, and we're starting to see just a little bit of a closer battle forming already. Only early stages, of course, but something to keep an eye on. As we see in the background, Michael Forrest goes around as Matt Cotter comes through behind him. And that's going to be a long, long wait for Forrest there before he's going to be able to get moving again. Has to get out of the way. Just sits and gets collected. You can see it coming a mile off. And Forrest ends up upside down. Brody Barber makes contact and absolutely sends him. And that will be Michael Forrest effectively out of this race. Might get back on track, but I don't think it'll be for a little while yet. Brody Barber will collect, I am sure, a stern talking to from the stewards for that one, as we keep our eye now on Nick Toppins and Justin Phillips for a side-by-side. Phillips, the better run under brakes. Toppins is going to try and go over under, can't quite get the drive out of the corner, so he's going to be relegated to 17th. Justin Phillips will hold on to 16th for the moment. But battles already starting to form up right throughout this pack. The one to watch, though, Matt Cotter, and for that matter, Alex McEwen, already making their way up through the field. Cotter's up into 7th and approaching the back of this second to lead pack. He's going to have to negotiate some slightly quicker drivers now. Goes to the outside with Benny Asplin going all the way over. He knows to get out of the way. He's not feeling anywhere near as confident with his pace. Now Cotter approaches Warwick. Warwick not giving him any such easy runs through there. Warwick's going to hold the inside line there and make Cotter really work for it. A little bit of a nudge there. Cotter drops back in behind to open the next corner up. Can he get by, or is he going to have to be sitting in behind Warwick as Warwick gets just a little bit too tail happy on the throttle? Now Cotter has a relatively clear run, but Warwick's going to be in a slightly more defensive position, you'd have to think. Warwick goes into the wall again. We saw that in the first race. That's going to be enough invitation for Cotter under brakes to send it up the inside. Big lock-up, though, and a massive dive to get through there. Alex McEwen's tried to go with him. He's gotten past Benny Asplin in the background. But now with Warwick in between them, Cotter's got a bit of an opportunity to try and extend this gap just a little further if he can. So as it stands right now, Simon Elliott, Daniel Sharp well out in front, Nick Mello a couple of seconds behind. Matt Cotter picks up another position. Alex McEwen still stuck behind Stephen Warwick, can't quite find his way through just yet. He's closing in as we get to the chicane. Lap 4 of 22. McEwen's going to have to be careful not to lose too much distance to Cotter here. Although at this stage, really nothing that Matt Cotter can do to take this championship away from Alex McEwen. All McEwen has to do is finish this race and the championship is sealed for him. So really a lot of pressure lifted off the shoulders, but of course bragging rights are still on offer here, and McEwen starting to push really, really hard and force his way through. Steve Warwick gets pushed to the outside of that one, and that allows Alex McEwen through. He's up into 6th, and now he'll start to try and chase down the group in front. We've seen Matt Cotter very quickly catching up to Nick Mello. All of these guys, of course, catching Nick Toppins, who's actually sitting back in 17th, so he'll get well out of the way. Toppins having a bit of a rough start to this second race. unfortunately not playing out the way he would have liked. Simonelli is, look, he's been enjoying a bit of clean air, but I don't think he's going to have it for too much longer. Mello and Cotter really starting to wind that distance in now. And with a bit of extra pressure from Cotter, I suspect Nick Mello is going to up his pace even further. And sure enough, they cut almost a full second out of Simonelli with that small error there. Fastest lap for Matt Cotter, 122.4. Alex McEwen, 122.1 just behind. So he's doing a lot of work to try and catch up. Matt Cotter goes to the outside and then back across as Nick Mello gets through on the inside. And Simonelli says, no, thank you, I am out of here. And probably the safest bet, I reckon, because Mello and Cotter are absolutely not holding back. Going full noise on their way through, and they're going to start to extend a lead out in front of this second pack very, very quickly as Simonelli gets swallowed up. Hayden Wallace comes through. Alex McEwen now goes through as well. Nathan Hughes is right there behind Toppins, as is Daniel Sharp. And just like that, Simonelli has been enjoying the lead for a few laps, but right now, squarely back into the mid-pack. Keep in mind, of course, in amongst all this, Toppins and Ian O'Brien still quite comfortable, just battling it out further back. And I'll have to apologise for Daniel Sharp. I keep calling him Toppins tonight. No, that's Daniel Sharp who's in amongst this one. He's in P7. Mick, welcome from NZ, mate. Sorry, I've been a little bit tied up in watching the action on track here, so trying to keep an eye on the chat as well. But yeah, it's a good one to get into, and definitely worth chatting to the guys here at AK Racing. If I'm not mistaken, we should have a link to the Discord just down in the YouTube description there for you. If not, let me know, and I'll make sure we do get one added at some point in the next couple of days. But there should be one there, as we see Daniel Sharp just overshooting it a little bit. Benny Asplin now with an opportunity to go back and forth behind him. Steve Warwick's ahead and probably just getting a little bit of a distraction in there for Daniel Sharp. Benny Asplin, though, up the inside. Sharp's had a big oversteer moment on the exit of the turn. That's cost him a lot of time. Asplin will go through easily in the end. And out in front, it's now Cotter, Mello, and Alex McEwen charging in behind. Still 2.5 seconds back, but how long will that last? The lap traffic getting well out of the way as these guys steam on through. Alex McEwen, though, still sitting at around about 3 seconds back. Hayden Wallace and Nathan Hughes battling it out for 4th and 5th behind them. And Simonelli with Stephen Warwick right on his tail as well. Then a bit more distance behind them, Benny Asplin, Daniel Sharp, Brandon Pierce, all with a little bit of breathing room, although not a great deal in it. Matt Cotter sets a fastest lap of 21.7, so that clean air out in front really benefiting him. And the gap to McEwen just starting to widen ever so slightly. The big ones to keep in mind, of course, Scott Garrick sitting back in 12th. That's effectively his chances of challenging for a podium spot in this championship. You'd have to assume well and truly done, as in the background we see a big moment going on. I think that might have been one of the lapped cars, perhaps, just getting a little bit sideways. In fact, no, it was Simonelli, sorry, that was struggling a bit with traction on the exit. A bit of a rough run since dropping out of first place. Oh, there's a big moment. That's Hayden Wallace into the wall. Steve Warwick gets collected. This is going to cause chaos. More cars coming through at top speed. All he can do is sit there and pray that they've got enough left in the front tyres to get around him. And in the end, Steve Warwick and Hayden Wallace getting very, very lucky not to get collected there. Justin Phillips comes through, smacks the back of Steve Warwick, manages to keep it going somehow. Could not have been a worse place for that to happen for Wallace. And for Stephen Warwick as well, had nowhere to go at that point, and his car is in very, very bad shape. He's going to really struggle to get that back around the track. And unfortunately, Warwick's night goes from bad to worse. Back out in front, and Nathan Hughes doing what he can to try and stay with that front battle, but Matt Cotter's had a bit of a moment there somewhere as well. And McEwen has not only caught him, but passed him. So Alex McEwen has either found a bunch of extra pace or Matt Cotter's overcooked it a little through one corner. Nick Mello finds himself, though, 5 seconds out in front. Absolutely clean air. Nathan Hughes slides it through behind these two. Have a look at the gap they're starting to open up now. We'll stick with Benny Asplund for just a moment. He finds himself going to the head of a rather spread out mid-pack with not a lot going on. Stephen Warwick into the pits. Unsurprisingly, he'll need to get quite a bit of damage repaired there. I don't know if we'll see him back on track for the rest of this race as we get closer and closer to the halfway point. Benny Asplund now just controlling this group of LA and Falzon behind him. Brandon Pierce a couple of seconds further back. And not a great deal of particularly close battles going on anywhere outside of our two championship front runners. McEwen and Cotter find themselves right back where we were in race number 1. Cotter throwing everything he can at McEwen, but just cannot seem to find a way back past. McEwen has been absolutely solid in every bit of driving that he's done here tonight. And Nathan Hughes really started to close in on this battle. Whether that'll have any impact or not is anyone's guess. Of course, Hughes and McEwen, the matching liveries there, so you'd have to expect that Cotter's anticipating a little bit of maybe some team orders going on here to just make his life a little difficult. Nick Mello out in front, though. I tell you what, give that guy some clean air and off he goes. 5.5 seconds up the road. You're not even seeing him in the same shot as these three at the moment, which is pretty telling of just how much pace he's got out there. Doing everything he can to try and just reel McEwen back in. Cannot seem to find that little bit of extra pace that he needs at the moment. Mind you, that could be McEwen starting to up his pace a little because Hughes is starting to get left behind as well. The gap back to Benny Asplund now absolutely massive. Out to 8 seconds across the line, which is, in anyone's terms, a huge gap to try and be working with, especially at this stage of the race. We're almost halfway through and already it's out to a similar kind of gap that we were seeing at the end of the first race. So plenty of time left in it, but I just don't think anyone's got the pace to match the front runners here tonight. As we jump on board with Brandon Pierce and get a bit of a view of what it's like to be chasing Falzon around Adelaide. I don't know about you folks, but I am so excited to see this one come to iRacing next week. We've got a very special event coming up on Simple Racing Broadcast in just over a week as well. The Pink Fins 400, a charity event supporting Pink Fins, who are an organisation that do a lot of cancer support. So do make sure you jump on in and hit the bell icon for that one and come along and check it out, because that will be a whole lot of fun as well. Some more supercar action around what is a very, very famous track here in Adelaide. Brandon Pierce, of course, getting a front row seat at the moment to the battle between Asplund and Falzon. And there it is, Asplund sideways back off the track. And in one swift move, Brandon Pierce picks up 2 spots. Falzon's going to wait and redress that one. And there goes Benny Asplund past. That allows Scott Garrick to get through. He's up into 6th. And he will be very, very thankful for the couple of extra spots that he's just picked up as well, because that keeps his hopes of maybe, just maybe, contesting a podium spot in this championship alive. Got a lot of work, though, to catch the front runners and actually get in amongst those points. Behind him, Daniel Sharp and Tyce Falzon now in their own little battle behind Benny Asplund, who rejoined, having only lost, one spot there. That little bit of contact from Falzon. Scott Garrick, the big winner out of all of that, of course, is Brandon, as well as Brandon Pierce, who finds himself a long way up the road from this group. We'll jump forward again, McEwen and Cotter. And honestly, folks, same story, haven't changed for the last little while. And these two very, very evenly matched in pace, but Cotter is starting to just struggle a little, it seems, with the rear end of that car. You're starting to see it slide just a little more, which makes me wonder how hard he's actually pushing those soft tyres and whether he is asking for just a little bit too much out of them. See him tap the wall once again, not afraid to rub a bit of the paintwork off. Is Matt Cotter. We've seen him bounce it off the walls a few times here in Adelaide already. And look, I suppose he's keeping the mechanics in a job if nothing else. Hopefully he's brought enough spares if he does start to knock panels off. As always though, as a race car driver, if you've got track there, you want to use all of it. And Matt Cotter determined to do exactly that as he runs it up and over each and every one of these curves. Alex McEwen a little more composed, you might say. And he just seems to have found a slightly better balance as Cotter again just drags the left-hand side along that wall. He's gone for a big dive up the inside, locks the brakes up, slides it on in. And those tyres starting to really show signs of overheating. Cotter's really struggling with the grip at the moment. And McEwen knows it. He knows he just has to keep it clean. Both of these drivers pulling away from Nathan Hughes fairly comfortably at the moment, but Cotter, I think, doing it much harder than McEwen. He's having to throw just everything at it to even keep with McEwen's pace at the moment. Meanwhile, out in front, let's not forget about Nick Mello, who's still maintaining 4 seconds from McEwen and really making it look very comfortable indeed. This gap hasn't moved at all over the last probably 8 laps. And so he finds himself in a very comfortable position at this stage. Dylan Penton just recovering from a minor track excursion, you might say. He's starting to get back up to pace now, but Benny Aspelin has caught up to him, so he's going to have to defend this one through the chicane if he can't get moving and get his head back in the game a little bit here. Look forward, I think Matt Cotter finally acknowledging that his tyres are just not going to be up to the task of staying with McEwen's pace here in Adelaide. Starting to just allow the car to drop away a little. We come down the main straight once again to start lap 14. Nick Mello out in front, Alex McEwen in second, Matt Cotter in third, Nathan Hughes another 5 seconds further down the track. And you'd have to think that McEwen is on track here to secure at the very least a podium spot in race 2, which will be more than enough to secure this championship. He only needs really about 6 points from this race, which even finishing in dead last should be more than enough to wrap up the championship for him. But he does look pretty intent on making this absolutely undisputable by the time we're done here tonight. Of course, another race yet to come. And McEwen showing no signs of slowing down. McEwen and Cotter both starting at the back row for this race, and to find them up in second and third already speak absolute volumes to the amount of pace that they both carry. It only took a matter of about 5 laps for them to both be into the top 5, and right now the only reason they're not out in front is the pace of Nick Mello. He's managing to hold them at bay. Although starting to drop just a couple of tenths here and there. There's not a great deal in it. But it does look as though McEwen and Cotter will continue this little battle for a while yet. Cotter starting to get back on track and reel McEwen in ever so slightly. The real difference though, Nick Mello is starting to come off the pace quite a bit, so whether he's had a bit of a moment himself. A tough one to say. We might just keep a bit of an eye on it. In fact, let's jump on board with Mello and go for a bit of a run out here in front and see just how hard he's having to work. Looking fairly composed, not a lot of movement at all on the way out. No oversteer to worry about as he gets the power down, so still obviously plenty of grip in the rear end. Eases it out close to the wall, but not touching. And then hard on the brakes. What must feel like incredibly slow hairpin. Making it look relatively easy out in front at the moment. Nick Mello is absolutely in control of this position. Further back through the field, Scott Garrick still in 6th with Matthias Falzon right there and behind him. And aside from that, only a few other battles going on. Benny Asplin charging past Hayden Wallace as Wallace struggles a little bit once again on the exit. Tonight just not proving to be his night in terms of pace. We've seen him drop quite a number of spots through the field. Just really struggling to get that Supra turning the way he wants it to. It looks like Daniel Sharp into the pits now. Whether there's been a bit of an issue. It looks like Wallace coming in as well, so a few of these drivers may be just underestimating the amount of fuel needed, or indeed landing on a one-stop strategy. The question will be, can Mello, McEwen and Cotter all make it through another 6 laps without having to come in themselves? I dare say that's probably what's started to bring McEwen back. I reckon he's in that car doing some fuel numbers and realising that he's going to need to just back it off a little bit if he wants to make it home without another stop coming into play. Matt Cotter doesn't seem too intent at all on slowing down. He's close right in behind. The question is he going to have the fuel to keep running at this pace? Again, Cotter taps the wall, looking to split Wallace and McEwen there. Doesn't quite get there in the end, and very, very nearly takes Hayden Wallace out of it. And all it's done is cost him time. You can see McEwen finally starting to show signs of being human. A big slide on the exit, so he's starting to push those tyres a little bit harder. Still unable to shake Matt Cotter, who is glued to the back end of that Mustang. Again comes out and just leaves a little bit of paint on the wall as he tries desperately to chase him down. Look at the temps that he's getting into those brakes and those tyres, pushing him to the absolute limit to make it through that hairpin. And I'm not convinced that it's not costing him a little bit of time every time he does it. Falzon now starting to catch Scott Garrick. He brings that gap down to just a few tenths. Big lock-up on the rears from Garrick. That's going to allow Falzon maybe an opportunity. Garrick tries to get it moving. A little bit of a spin, not quite enough of an opportunity for Falzon to make the move just yet. But that means that he knows now, of course, that Scott Garrick is struggling on those tyres. 4 laps left to run. And I think Falzon might just get the better of Garrick here if he can keep this pace up. On the exit, Garrick puts the foot down, manages to hold Falzon off, but here he comes, starting to close in. He's not going to get an opportunity to pass for a couple of corners yet. Oh, big hit for Scott Garrick, goes into the tyre bundle, sends him spearing into the wall. Will he be able to get that car going again? Somehow has survived that. I have no idea how. There should be huge damage to that car, but Scott Garrick getting very, very lucky indeed. Well, that might show us, though, that it's not quite as undamaged as it appears. He runs very, very deep under brakes. And Garrick, I think, is just going to have to try and push through these next few laps. The tyres will be absolutely cooked after that slide. But now what he's going to have to do is try and hold on as the rest of the field catches him very, very quickly indeed. Checking back up front, story unchanged, except for the gaps. Nick Mello has lost almost 2 seconds of the gap that he held over McEwen. Matt Cotter has not lost anything to McEwen, so he's going along for the ride as well. McEwen just starting to really add that pace in at the late stages of this race. Is he going to help his teammate stay ahead or not? That's the real question. Mello's still out in front for now, but McEwen and Cotter right on the tail and will be with him in just a matter of corners. Nick Toppins and Benny Asplin fighting out for 9th and 10th. And Toppins looking to hopefully save something from this race. He's not had the best of run here tonight, but looking for a top 10 finish here would be a lovely way to finish this race and set him up very, very nicely for a good crack at race number 3. The gap out in front now starting to open up again. Matt Cotter's had a bit of a moment. Nick Mello, you can see, really struggling to pull that car up now. So those tyres starting to reach the end of their useful life by the feel of things. Alex McEwen not really managing to close in any as a result of it, but Matt Cotter still hovering in the background. Alex McEwen will be doing everything he can to both hold him at bay and also, I suspect, give Mello just a little bit of breathing room here. Mick, the mods to get racing here, I believe there might be a small cost involved, but definitely worth jumping on the Discord, having a chat to the AK Racing guys just to confirm that. We've just covered these couple of rounds with AK Racing as the end of their season to see if we can get a reasonable Assetto Corsa broadcast running. Of course, Simple Racing broadcasts very much at home with covering iRacing events, so Assetto Corsa is something a little bit newer for us, but certainly seems to be gelling pretty well. So we're on track to cover all of next season for AK Racing as well. But unfortunately, haven't had a great deal of time, I'll be honest, to look into what the setup is for joining as a driver. I can tell you though, go and have a chat to them. They're good blokes and very, very easy to ask questions of, and they will absolutely set you on the right path, my friend. Just a couple of laps left in this one. Mello about to cross the line and start lap 21. The penultimate lap. We'll expect the white flag next time around. Mello, McEwen and Cotter still in control here. And this will be well and truly enough for Alex McEwen to seal the deal on this championship. Matt Cotter just has thrown everything at him this race and just cannot keep it up. And Cotter, a massive moment in the background. Those tyres, nothing left in them at this stage. And you can see just how hard he's working to even try and get any power down at all. That's going to be it. He's going to start to really fall off the back here. Those tyres just smoking at the moment. Massively overheated, you'd have to think. And that will be it for Matt Cotter. I don't think he's got anything left to give. Thankfully, he's got plenty of distance before Brandon Pierce in 4th gets anywhere near him, and it won't happen within a lap. Interesting thing to note though, of course, McEwen's starting to just drop back from Nick Mello as well, so really starting to find the limits of these soft tyres here at Adelaide. It is a course that's going to be very, very hard on tyres. A lot of significant braking efforts required. We start the final lap now, and Nick Mello has led this one for almost the entirety of this second race, and cannot think of a more deserving winner for it. He's been so consistent out in front there. And with McEwen just behind him, Matt Cotter a long way back now. You'd have to think there's pretty well nothing that can stop him at this point, as he effectively completes almost a parade lap to finish this one off. He's had the track all to himself for the best part of 22 laps, and that's probably about the ideal scenario for any supercar driver, especially when you come to a street circuit like Adelaide. You don't want to have to be worrying too much about going side by side through some of these turns. Going to have to keep pushing on though, because if he backs it off too far, I guarantee McEwen's not going to give him any quarter, and he's going to absolutely reel him in here if he can. Bit of a slide there from both Mello and McEwen as they come around to finish off this final lap. And Nick Mello, take a bow, son. You have absolutely earned this win. A brilliant drive from start to finish as he gets to the final turn. And a nice little 1-2 here for Nick Mello and Alex McEwen. Mello comes across the line, makes it look easy in the end. Alex McEwen in second. Matt Cotter comes home in third. Threw everything he could at that one, but just not enough. Dylan Penton comes home in fourth. Brandon Pierce will be fifth. I'll have to try and figure out what's going on actually with some of these towers, because they are getting a little bit out of order as winners cross the line here. So just to correct that, Mello, McEwen and Cotter, then Brandon Pierce, Nathan Hughes in fifth. Matthias Falzon, everyone trying to drift at home here, and some doing a slightly better job than others. Scott Garrett comes home in seventh, Justin Fullis in eighth, then Benny Asplin in ninth as he makes his way through the chicane. Nick Mello doing everything he can out in front to drift the whole course SVG style, but nothing going at the moment. Alex McEwen just taking it a little more sedately as he gets around. Mello's obviously had his fun and been left well behind there. But McEwen and Cotter will come on into the pit bay and wait for Nick Mello to make his way around again. The rest of those results, Mello, McEwen, Cotter, then Pierce, Hughes and Falzon. Scott Garrick in 7th, Justin Fullis in 8th, Benny Asplin in 9th, Nick Toppins takes 10th, Ian O'Brien in 11th. And then Dylan Penton looks to have finished in 12th. Roby Barber, Hayden Wallace, Clayton Waters behind them. As Nick Mello makes his way into the pit bay and lines it on up. As he just waits for the other two to get themselves sorted. Backs it on down and hopefully enough room for 3 cars there, although he might have to do a little bit of Austin Powers manoeuvring to get it on in there. And once again, McEwen and Cotter not too concerned about trying to hang on to those tyres for race number 3. Nick Mello just wedges it on in. And what a way to celebrate. As we find ourselves at the end of race number 2 here. One final one ahead of us, folks. Good time, of course, to go and refresh yourselves before we get underway. This time around, a reverse grid once again. So McEwen and Cotter will be starting from the back, but I expect it won't take them long at all to move through if that race was anything to go by. 34 laps this time around. There is a mandatory pit stop and there is a mandatory compound change, so we'll keep an eye on that when we do get back into it in just a moment. For now, though, we will take a quick break and be right back with you with race number 3. Well, a very big welcome back, folks, as we start to get ready to go racing once again. The drivers jumping on in to the final race server for this evening. And what a race it's set up to be. Again, McEwen and Cotter will have to be chasing this one from the very back of the pack. But I don't think any real troubles expected, given what we saw from them the first time around. But we will have to just wait and see what lies ahead, I suspect. We wait for the drivers to just get themselves on into the server. Of course, a bit of a reset required in between each round. And just as a reminder, of course, 34 laps this time around, a reverse grid again, and a mandatory pit and compound change lie ahead for all of these drivers. So we will get on down to the track in just a moment and take a bit of a look at what lies ahead. Just getting confirmation all the drivers starting to load in now, so we'll take you down to the track and let's take a bit of a look at how everyone is lining up in terms of tyre compound especially. And we're seeing Alex McEwen and Nick Mello at the back of the grid starting on the hard tyres. They want to finish strong on the soft compound, which is not surprising to see. Justin Phillips starting on the soft compound is a little bit different to the rest of the field. And of course, the front 6 or 7 drivers starting on softs as well. Warwick, LA Forest, Sharp, Waters and Wallace all starting on that soft compound as well. So Nick Mello's actually made the change across to soft compound. So whether that was a late decision or perhaps just a very brief error in our telemetry, who knows? A couple of drivers left to jump in. We are waiting on just 1 or 2 at the front end of the grid. Matt Cotter's there in hard tyres. Brandon Pierce with soft tyres on at the back. So a real mix here of compounds in use. It will be interesting to see just how much of a difference that makes in pace. So keep your eye at the back of the field for Nathan Hughes, Matt Cotter, and the like, as they find themselves with a whole lot of difference in the grip here tonight. Alex McEwen on the hard still, Nick Mello on soft. We're about to go racing. Stephen Warwick rolls it forward just a little bit. Hopefully that won't be a jump start for him. But we are underway, green flag. There's no soon enough if Warwick has needed to come in and serve a penalty for that one. But look at the start from Clayton Waters. He goes up the outside here. It gets to the chicane very, very early, immediately up into second. Leaves Forrest and LA for dead off the line. And a great start for the Ninja Turtle. Big nudge there from Michael Forrest as well. That's going to upset his braking. Warwick's off the track on his own. Waters being helped off the track. Forrest, LA and Sharp in behind. As we see Daniel Sharp just trying to run up alongside and gets there in the end. Now the question is, can Dylan Penton squeeze on through as well? Looks like he's going to go up the inside of this one. Simon Alley on the outside has no answer at this point. Penton goes through. Here comes Matt Cotter already up into 6th place. We're not even halfway through lap number 1. And he is charging through the front end of this field. The real question is, where is Alex McEwen? The answer to that, back in 15th still. So Matt Cotter has had a much, much better run through this opening lap. He's jumped all the way up into 5th. Absolutely massive start for him. And making it look almost easy. He's doing this on hard tyres, mind you. So if this is the hard tyres and he switches over to the soft in the later stage, I hate to think what he's actually capable of. See, it's all big nudge there. There's huge contact. Daniel Sharp goes into the back of Matt Cotter. Now Cotter sideways. We've got chaos at the final turn. So many drivers spun around. Daniel Sharp's around. Benny Asplin, as well as Matthias Falzon, getting caught up in all of that. Matt Cotter's brilliant run undone in just a moment. The tiniest bit of contact and he's back into 14th. What a change that is. Clayton Waters gets past Stephen Warwick out in front as well. I think Dylan Penton showing as the leader there might be Something that's about to correct itself. There it is. He drops back down through the field. So Clayton Waters takes the lead ahead of Stephen Warwick. Then Michael Forrest and Brandon Pearce. Nick Mello into fifth has also had a brilliant start and has managed to avoid all of the chaos so far. Alex McEwen finds himself up into ninth now. Have a look at the move though from Simon L.A. Sends it up the inside of Stephen Warwick. Now he's backed right off, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there. All of a sudden he's had to jump right back, and big moment there for Hayden Wallace, who's gone around. This is almost exactly where he got caught up as well. Matt Cotter's caught in again. Matt Cotter could not be having a worse run here this evening. Hayden Wallace goes around. Cotter had nowhere to go. He gets spun as well. Thankfully manages to keep it going. But Matt Cotter cannot catch a break here this evening. He's trying so hard to move back up through the field. Had a fantastic start. And now twice he's been taken out and had to find his way back up onto the right direction. Finds himself back in 11th, so not wasting any time, but geez, what a horror start for Matt Cotter. He'll be very, very thankful he's still got so many laps ahead of him. But whether that's done any damage to the car that's going to slow him down from here, that'll be the next question. Alex McEwen, meanwhile, has just comfortably edged his way through the field, now finds himself up into ninth and feeling probably pretty assured at this point. Matt Cotter, you can see just charging through in the background. And it looks like we do have a virtual safety car called for that one. So Waters and Warwick out in front will just maintain the pace here. Forrest, Pearce, Mello, LA, Foulis, Garrick, then Alex McEwen in 9th. Nick Toppins in 10th, Matt Cotter in 11th. And I tell you what, you could not get a worse opening couple of laps than what Matt Cotter has had. A brilliant first half of lap number 1, coming from the back of the field through to 6th in about half a lap. And then chaos unfolded, and less than 2.5 laps later, he finds himself all the way back in 11th, having made it back up through the field twice in that time. The real question will be, is there enough of a point gap in it that anyone else can challenge him for second place in this championship? And I can't imagine that's going to be the case given the first 2 races and the number of points that were on offer. But even so, Cotter will want to leave none of that to chance once we do get back to green flag racing here. As Waters and Warwick lead us up, Warwick's going to go into the pits, so Clayton Waters will continue to control this up to the start-finish line. And we go racing once again. This time charging on down to the chicane in a single file. So hopefully, perhaps just a little more controlled than it was last time around. Stephen Warwick, it looks like it was a drive-through that he served there. But Waters, Pearce, Mello and Forrest have changed positions very early on in this restart. Behind them, Scott Garrick is just barely holding Alex McEwen at bay. Justin Phillips wanting to go with him as well. And Garrick, although in the mathematical hunt for a podium spot after his first 2 races, unfortunately, probably find himself out of contention. Matt Potter's right there in 9th, just a couple of spots back from McEwen. Toppins in 10th. And a huge move up further from Nick Mello as he tries to go around the outside. Waters and Pearce come together. Clayton Waters loses that lead. Brandon Pearce charges through. Now Nick Mello looks to have another crack at it. Can't quite get there this time, so he'll have to just sit back on behind Waters and look for another opportunity. Waters all over the road here, defending hard. But a massive gain there for Mello up the inside. Door to door, Waters is doing everything he can to hold him, but Mello goes through. Waters immediately whips across behind to try and pick up just a little bit of draft if it's available. These 3 starting to really pull away from the pack. Michael Forrest out in front of the rest of this group. Cotter has gotten past McEwen, but whether that will last very long at all is anyone's guess. As Cotter pushes hard up the inside and just moves LA aside. Alex McEwen says thank you very much and goes through as well. So Simon LA getting all sorts of attention from the championship front runners. Behind them, Scott Garrick and Justin Phillips are side by side. Justin just having to pull out of that one very, very late. Now tries another move up the inside. He's going to get it this time. Can he get the drive down the straight? It looks as though he's got a very, very good jump on Garrick, who just struggled a little bit out of the corner. Stephen Warwick all over the shop in the background. Now Cotter leads McEwen for the first time in a little while, honestly. We remind ourselves of the tyre compounds. Both Cotter and McEwen on that hard tyre, so a little surprising to see Cotter going past McEwen so comfortably. But, of course, not impossible. Cotter's had plenty of pace. McEwen doesn't really need to do anything except bring it home at this point. Brandon Pierce out in front sets the fastest lap of 21.9, so he's finding plenty of pace still available. Nick Mello going with him as well. The gap back to Clayton Waters continues to climb. Up to 2.8 now. And here come Cotter and McEwen. So Waters is not going to be alone for too much longer at this pace. Scott Garrick drops position to Justin Phillips. Simon Allen right there with him as well. In the background, Ian O'Brien has Falzon and Hughes behind him. So the mid-pack battle continues to be fierce, while out in front there's plenty of separation between the drivers. And Phillips leads a long train down this main straight. And yes, I am going to call this the main straight. You can argue with me all you want, folks, but this is absolutely the straight at Adelaide, in my humble opinion. So you see a big dive from Falzon, barely gets it pulled up, smokes the tyres on the way into the corner. Ian O'Brien drops a spot. Nathan Hughes had to think about it as well, couldn't quite get there. But he'll be lining up for another shot at it if he gets half a chance. Now Matt Cotter has gone past Clayton Waters, so Waters doing everything he can, but just cannot find the same kind of pace that these championship front runners have. We said it earlier, folks, we'll say it again, the pace difference that we're seeing from the championship leaders to a lot of the rest of the field is something pretty special to watch. Alex McEwen now sending it up the inside, really having to barge his way through. Clayton Waters is going to defend the inside of this left-hander, and he'll regain control of that position for just a moment longer. He holds the inside line for just an extra second on the exit, doing everything he can to frustrate McEwen. But really, it's just a matter of time, and McEwen's going to try for a better exit. Can't quite get there this time. Waters sits in the middle of the road, going to make McEwen choose a side before he commits. And look at the gap back to Garrick, 5.5 seconds nearly before that massive line of cars starts to charge around the corner behind them. The front five absolutely separated from the rest of the pack at the moment. Big moment for Waters there, locks it up, goes too deep, and an easy position for Alex McEwen. Waters was doing a great job trying to hold on to that, but unfortunately just went a little bit too far, and now he's really struggling to get his rhythm back. And that'll allow Alex McEwen to pull even further away. Clayton Waters, unfortunately, now has to just fight off the gap behind him to Scott Garrick. He's going to have to get rolling again pretty quickly. Justin Phillips is right there as well, as is Simon L.A. sticking with these two. Tyres Falzon, Nick Toppins a little further back. Then Stephen Warwick has made his way back up into 11th after that early drive-through. Hughes, Asplin, O'Brien, Sharp, Forrest and Wallace, the rest of the drivers on track. And really, you have a look at the track map here, folks. It gives you an idea of just how much difference there is between the front runners and some of these drivers a bit further back. As you see, Stephen Warwick take a big look up the inside of Nick Toppins. Doesn't send it in the end, but he's definitely got his go-juice going there in the Camaro. Wants to keep moving back up through the field. And, hopefully, a bit of a wiggle on the way out there, but definitely trying to get the power down nice and early here. Nathan Hughes doing much the same behind him. We want to get going as well, so Nick Toppins under pretty intense pressure. I think for a moment there they were thinking about going 3 wide. Warwick in the end doesn't send it, neither does Nathan Hughes. and it actually ends up costing them both a little bit of time. Toppins holds on to 10th for just a little while longer. But at this point, you've got to wonder who it is that's going to send the move first. Warwick is thinking about the inside here. Not quite close enough to make a move, although on the exit, he's got a lot of pace. Jams it up the inside there. Forces Toppins out wide. Bit of contact. Warwick just barely keeping it out of the wall. Toppins trying to move across at about the same time. And now Nathan Hughes is going to go up the inside as they come to the chicane. Barely enough room to sneak cars through, and Toppins makes the smart decision to stay in the race and just let it drift on past. And then a big lock-up now for Hughes as he tries to stay with Warwick. Just keeps it within the limits of the track. I think Toppins couldn't capitalise there, but gives you an idea of just how hard Warwick is pushing, and in turn Nathan Hughes trying everything he can to continue just holding on to the back of Stephen Warwick. Out in front, Brandon Pearce and Nick Mello continue to maintain a 5-second gap back to Cotter and McEwen, so plenty of pace with these front two. Keep in mind, of course, though, that there is a mandatory pit stop to come and a mandatory compound change. And as a reminder, the two out in front on soft tyres are holding that 5-second gap over in Cotter and McEwen on hard tyres. So you would have to expect that there's going to be a changing of regards sometime before the end of this race. The real question is just how long can Pearce and Mello get out of these soft tyre sets before they then come in and swap them on over. They'll want to extend that if they can. Meanwhile, Cotter and McEwen will be looking for a bit of an earlier pit stop, you'd have to think, to get onto the soft tyres. We did see in the second race that 22 laps was starting to really push the limits of what the soft tyres were capable of handling in terms of giving you any sort of grip to play with. So you'd have to think that we're probably still another 5 laps or so away from Cotter and McEwen thinking about coming in. Matt Cotter, heaps of pace on those hard tyres. He's opened up almost 6 seconds on Alex McEwen, who's clearly he's following a very, very different race strategy here. Well, I think at this point, Matt Cotter just wanted to make sure that he definitely secures second place on the championship podium. You can see he's pushing everything that he can out of those tyres. Plenty of smoke coming off the brakes into just about every corner as well, and he continues to open up more and more distance. McEwen behind him. Back in this mid-pack battle, Justin Phillips hasn't found a way past Scott Garrick yet, and it's starting to invite both LA and Falzon to just rejoin this a little bit. Clayton Waters, for his part, hasn't managed to stay out in front for anywhere near as long as he'd probably like, and he struggles again on the entry of that corner. Garrick almost follows him, and there we see the first of the pit stop. So Falzon into the pits. He'll be changing, I would expect, both compound and a bit of a top-up of fuel there. I'll just go and do a quick check of our just a very quick check of our tyre compounds. Falzon on soft tyres, so I would think he'd have to be coming out on hard tyres, which would explain the slightly earlier pit stop that he's going to get away with. Just a light breeze here today in Adelaide. Track temp's still fairly warm. Air temp's 26 degrees, track temp's 32, so that will tend to bring the tyre life down just a little bit, especially these high-speed sweepers, known for scrubbing plenty off these tyres. Justin Phillips had a big think about it on Scott Garrick there. Everyone just starting to get backed up a little bit behind Clayton Waters now. And you'd have to think that Garrick's got to try and move here somewhere, else he's going to be overrun by Justin Phillips. Oh, big moment for Clayton Waters. I think he's trying to get into the pits there, but it was a little unsure for the moment. Just a little bit heavy under brakes and got sideways, but does make it there in the end. Now Scott Garrick picks up 5th and finally has a bit of clean air in front of him to try and pull away from Justin Phillips behind if he can. Garrick, though, on the hard compound, Phillips on softs, as is Simon LA behind them. So I would expect, big moment. Justin Phillips really locking the brakes up hard there. So these tyres already starting to show just a little bit of aging. 12 laps in. Definitely past their best. And really, you can only expect probably another 5, maximum 10 laps out of it before Phillips has to give up on them completely. Which is good news, of course, for Scott Garrick, who should have plenty left in the hard compound by comparison. Out in front, Brandon Pierce and Nick Mello, both on softs, both continuing this battle quite comfortably. Their last laps are a little off the pace as the tyres do start to wear just a little. 22.2 and a 22.17 on that one. So Mello's still with a little bit of extra pace, but doesn't look to be in any particular hurry to pass Brandon Pierce at this point in time. Or a big lock up on the rear as well as he tries to avoid Pierce's small error on the entry of that turn. Matt Cotter still 4.6 behind, so he is starting to catch these guys. Brought it down from about 5.5 seconds, but it's not been a particularly quick drop at this stage. So expect Cotter to be thinking about changing tyres. Probably, I'm going to predict the next 2 or 3 laps that Matt Cotter will start to think about the soft compound. Probably as soon as he realises that he's no longer gaining on the front two. At this stage, he's probably pretty happy to still be carving a little bit of time out of them. But he'll want to get onto those soft tyres as soon as possible to really start to catch them up. And when Matt Cotter comes in, you can almost guarantee Alex McEwen behind him will follow through as well. Further back in the pack, Simon L.A., Stephen Warwick, Nathan Hughes, all looking up the road to Scott Garrick, but not within striking distance at the moment. And behind them, Benny Asplund has Ian O'Brien just closing in on him. Nick Toppins and Tyus Falzon battling it out for 12th and 13th behind them. And way back in the distance, Daniel Sharp leading the back 3 or 4 cars in this pack. So again, we see Adelaide separating out into a number of little battle groups of all sorts of different pace. Ian O'Brien doing a brilliant job just closing into Asplund at the moment, as is Falzon behind with Toppins. And indeed, Matthias Falzon in a great position to try and make a move here into the final turn. Sweeping right-hander, can he get up the inside under brakes? He's going to have a shot at a big wiggle, can't quite get there. But on the exit, gets a much better drive from Toppins, and that'll be Falzon through and into 12th. We see a couple more cars just coming through pit stops now. Justin Coolers coming in for his stop. So he will be changing compounds as well. And Falzon now up into 11th with that change. Pearson Mello still out in front, still quite comfortable, but the gap now quartered down to 3.5 seconds. So Matt Cotter doesn't need to think about changing compound just yet. He's managed a 21.7 on the last lap. Well, this might be a chance for Nick Mello. He finally gets a better drive than Pierce. They're going to go side by side into the chicane here. They won't. Mello thought about it for a moment, decided to back it off just a little. And Cotter says, thank you very much. I'll take another 2/10. Now down to 3 seconds. Oh, big slide in the background for Cotter. Huge slide. He's pushing that car very, very hard to try and make these gains. And risking a lot of damage in doing it. He has got it down though to 3.4, so maybe worth a little bit of damage in the end. Definitely seems to be Matt Cotter's MO tonight. He is basically treating this Camaro like a pinball and bouncing it off all of the walls here in Adelaide. I'm not sure how his mechanics feel about it back in the garage, but it's certainly delivering results. The gap back to Alex McEwen now 9.5 seconds. So he's starting to really walk away from him at this point. Stephen Warwick's in the pits. And Mello and Pierce are just right there. Matt Cotter can almost reach out and touch them. For the moment though, probably not spending too much time looking back in their mirrors, because Mello does want to have another shot at Pierce here if he can. He had a great drive out of the final turn last time around. Can he get the same again here? Pierce parks it on the apex. It catches Mello by surprise just a little, and he backed out. I reckon if he can predict that just a little bit better next time around, that should be a fairly easy pass for him to make. At the moment, can't quite get the timing right. And all it's doing is allowing Cotter to get closer and closer. Cotter has a much better run in the background that time around. Pierce locking those tyres. So we're starting to see the soft compound giving way which is about where we saw it last time. 16 laps in, or maybe only 20, 22 laps of running in them. Surely Matt Cotter has to be thinking about going to the soft compound soon. Or maybe he's going to run it as far as he can until McEwen comes in. Given the pace that Cotter has on this hard compound, he's still absolutely carving chunks of time out of the front two, down to 2.3, 2.4 seconds the gap now. Mello has another look up the inside, just making sure he stays very much in Brandon Pearson's mirrors, and every turn stays the inside here as well. Mello really does feel like he's got the extra pace here. Beautiful exit, slides it out to perfection, gets the power down. Right on tail, big push there. Brandon Pearce gets on the brakes a little bit heavier. I think he was heading for the pits anyway, and that might have been why he was on the brakes through that corner. Mello didn't predict that at all. And so Brandon Pearce into the pits. Mello goes through, picks up first place. Matt Cotter now to 1.3 seconds, still on the hard compound. And I do wonder if Mello will get a little bit of a chat from race control for that one. But it's a tough one to call, isn't it? Driver getting on the brakes where they ordinarily wouldn't because they need to make it across to the pits. Maybe could have indicated the intention a little better. But generally speaking, when you run into the back of someone, it's pretty well frowned upon. Matt Cotter, all over Nick Mello now, has taken no time at all to hunt down that last few seconds, and now finds himself only about a half second off the back of the front car. Clayton Waters, for his part, a long way back through the field, and just doing what he can to stay in this one. And both Waters and Mello just tap the wall there. Matt Cotter going very, very deep under brakes, closes in, makes his way past Waters, and he's probably going to be very thankful for that. He would have been a little worried about getting caught up with the lap driver in between the two. As it stands, Cotter's managed to get through, and I reckon what we'll probably see here is a very, very big dive under brakes to close the last of this gap. Matt Cotter's had just about everyone's number on this final corner, and he does it once again. Not a lot, but carving a tenth or a tenth and a half out each and every time through is going to have him out in front in no time. Again, a reminder, Nick Mello's on soft tyres, Cotter's on hard tyres. The amount of pace difference here is just something else altogether. And look at Cotter flying up. He's been so quick through that section time and time again. He's going to go over under here. Mello's going to be in a better position. Shuts the door very, very hard in front of Matt Cotter. I don't know how much longer Nick Mello can hold this. Cotter's been absolutely all over him now for the last, lap and a bit. Ever since Mello had that brief moment running into the back of Brandon Pearce. And Mello bounces it off the wall once again. Cotter's looking for an opportunity here. Mello's doing a fantastic job of just holding the line in such a way, getting a turn-in happening early enough that Cotter can't make the dive under brakes. We've seen him do a couple of times here tonight. I don't know if Mello's going to have that positioning all the way through, though. It's Cotter, look how late he's getting on those brakes. Gives a little bit of a nudge along to Mello on the exit of the corner, so Cotter's getting on the power much, much earlier than Mello out of that final turn. So we've got a little bit of traffic ahead of them. This could be dangerous. They're going to have to back it off through the chicane. Looks like it might be Daniel Sharp who's just come out of the pits there. No, sorry. This time I get it the wrong way around. It's Toppins out of the pits behind Mello and Cotter. What's McEwen has gone in, so McEwen will be getting onto those soft tyres. He's made the changeover. He's on his way back out from the pits. It'll be interesting to see just how quickly he starts to catch the front runners now. Matt Cotter still stuck behind Nick Mello for the moment, but holding a very, very good pace on those hard tyres still. Doesn't seem to be impacting him too much, and as long as he can stay in behind Mello and get the benefit of the draft, it's going to help out. He goes deep under the brakes there, and that's it. That's the move that Cotter's been waiting for. Gets the nose in front. Will it be enough for him to actually hold on to this position? Mello's right there on the inside. Cotter does what he can to cut him off. finally gets the back end of that car past Mello's nose, and that's it. He'll be out in front. And now Mello will start to run away with this until he decides to actually make the switch. Mello finally coming in. He acknowledges that those tyres are done. 19 laps, about what we can expect out of them. Now let's see what Matt Cotter's got left in him. He's going to be watching the gap back to Alex McEwen very, very closely to see when he wants to come in. He knows that McEwen's coming in and changed over that soft compound. Cotter has all the time in the world out here in front now to just enjoy the clean air for a little while before he does worry too much about coming in for his pit stop. He'll want to cut down the number of laps that he has to run on those soft tyres. And with the amount of space that he's got, really you'd have to think that he's going to give himself maybe 10 or 12 laps on the soft tyres. He doesn't want to try and get too much out of them. Brandon Pierce in second place just sees one of the Supras off to the side there. That looks like that was Daniel Sharp, who's just had a bit of a moment and ended up in the kitty litter. Gets it rolling once again. But Brandon Pierce, 20 seconds back. He's out on the hard compound now, so I can't imagine he's going to reel Matt Cotter in too much, given that Cotter's had soft tyre pace for quite some time. Alex McEwen out on the soft tyres now. What can he do for what's left of this race? There's the question. Matthias Felsen behind on softs. Nathan Hughes on softs. Got Garrick on softs in 7th. But still probably a couple of pit stops to come in amongst that group as well. Can anyone catch Matt Cotter? That's the real question. I can't see it happening from here. We're starting to run out of laps. Only about 13 to go. And the gap for Brandon Pierce is just enormous at this point. Pierce starts lap 21 now, 20 seconds behind. That gap is starting to grow. It's Matt Cotter ahead. McEwen, though, sets the fastest lap, 21.2. So the soft tyres immediately having an impact for him. By comparison, Matt Cotter's last lap at 22.4. So a good second and a bit, the difference. But even then, the gap back to McEwen now is about 26 seconds. So with 13 laps to go, even with a pit stop in there, Matt Cotter should be feeling very, very comfortable out in front of this pack. Asplin's not had a brilliant drive here tonight. It's not been the result that he probably would have wanted, getting caught up in quite a few issues. Cotter, though, for his part, had more than his fair share to start this race and has done a brilliant job of pulling it back from where he was. Asplin now starting to close in on Justin Fields, so these guys will be battling for 12th and 13th. A long way further back in the pack from Matt Cotter, who's just gone past them. But you know, still got to fight it out for every position that you can as a racing driver. And with 12 laps left to run, we're basically back into sprint territory for what's left in this race. Matt Cotter continues to extend his lead over Pierce in second place. Nick Mello holding on to third, but Alex McEwen, have a look at him catching up on his teammate now. The gap down to 1.2 seconds. He's caught, I think, about 4 seconds in as many laps since putting those soft tyres on. So McEwen knows he's got only really 12 laps to make a massive dent on Cotter's lead here. And he knows that he's got just about the right amount of life in those soft tyres. He does need to make a pretty big impact early on. So I think we'll probably see Mello move out of the way here in short order, because he won't want to hold the teammate up at all. So at this point, probably not a bad place to get a bit of a tow here. McEwen will get pulled all the way down this straight. Inside wall, a dangerous one. McEwen going through without too much drama at all. They swap positions and then they'll keep pushing on from there. And the gap now, about 26 seconds as Cotter makes his way into the pits. So let's see just how close this is when Cotter does come out the other side. McEwen starting to run down towards that final turn. Can Cotter get back out with those fresh tyres on? And more importantly, can he get him up to temperature in time? Cotter is out from the pits now. McEwen still 8 seconds behind. That's still a lot of work to do.
Cotter comes back out on those soft tyres. He'll have to get some temp in them pretty quickly, but he's only going to be asking 11 laps out of these tyres, so not really going to be pushing them too hard at all. Brandon Pierce only a couple of seconds behind, has plate Waters in between him and Cotter to deal with, but won't be much in that as Waters moves out of the way. So Brandon Pierce on the hard tyre. It'll be interesting to see if he can maintain the sort of pace that we saw from Cotter earlier. But Matt Cotter absolutely flying now that he's out on those soft tyres. And Alex McEwen just starting to sneak into the back of some of those shots now. The gap, though, is still around the 6-second mark. And that's exactly where Cotter will want it to stay for as long as possible. 10 laps to go at the completion of this one. And Cotter really on track to finally get himself a race win here tonight. He's gotten close in race 1 and 2. If he can hold it together and get these tyres through to the end without too much of an issue, he might just finally collect a few extra points here. McEwen, though, for his part, just too good all season, and had this championship wrapped up really just by showing up here tonight. The fact that he's come and sat himself on a podium in all 3 races is really just icing on the cake for what has been a brilliant and completely dominant season from him. Even though we've only covered the final 2 rounds here on Simple Racing Broadcast, it is very, very easy to see why Alex McEwen has ended up so far out in front with some of the results that he's put on across these races. O'Brien and Hayden Wallace back in 8th and 9th now. About the closest battle that we've got on track at the moment. O'Brien, I think, just struggling a little out on the hard compound now. Hayden Wallace probably a little better adjusted in the Supra. Starting to pull away from O'Brien now. Not a huge number of drivers that have got the soft compound up their sleeve for the latter part of this race. Go down the list. Matt Cotter out in front, of course, Alex McEwen on the softs. Matthias Falzon, Nathan Hughes and Scott Garrick all on the soft compound. So we could see those 3 potentially pick up a couple extra spots, but the gap between them at the moment absolutely massive. And Nathan Hughes still has 16 seconds up the road if he wants to catch Falzon. Falzon, for his part, gets the power down just a little bit too early on the exit of the final turn there. He's still talking about 15 seconds to catch Nick Mello, so it's not looking super positive for these guys, even with the soft tyres on. Mello's out on the hard compound now, but still very, very quick. Pierce and McEwen finally coming together, so McEwen really starting to catch on to Brandon Pierce, and that is not because McEwen's going necessarily a whole bunch faster than Cotter. The gap is just moving at the moment. Cotter's starting to really pull away from Brandon Pierce, so McEwen needs to get past Pierce pretty quickly here if he does want to continue to hold on to that gap to Cotter up ahead. Because every tenth, every second that he spends stuck behind Pierce is just more time that Cotter manages to pull away out in front. How do you enable ASMR commentary mode? Look, I don't know, Lisa. Honestly, how you going, my friend? Best thing you can do is mute the stream, I guess. That's about all I can offer in this one, I'm sorry. But I take it you were potentially enjoying a little bit of the Spa coverage yesterday as we were playing around with exactly that, a bit of ASMR broadcast. There's nothing but car noise going on. And it's something that, of course, we can offer for iRacing events and leagues, and something we'll do from time to time, as always. Bit of support there for Clayton Waters. Yeah, look, Waters has not had the best night tonight, unfortunately. He's got caught up in a couple of incidents, and I don't think 15th is really a position that demonstrates just how doesn't really demonstrate just how competitive he's been. But yeah, that's the way racing goes sometimes. McEwen finally makes it past Pierce, and he jumps on through. Of course, I was wondering why I recognised the profile image. G'day, Rob. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Why does it show that though? I cannot possibly give you an answer to that. That's just YouTube doing YouTube things, mate. Have a look at the gap now that the Cotter has opened up over McEwen. It does get a little bit skew-if as we come across the line there, but we're talking 9.5 seconds. Cotter has got everything going for him here as he enjoys that time out in front. Almost 10 seconds gap to McEwen. McEwen, for his part, won't be pushing super hard, but even so, I don't think that there's any danger to Cotter of losing this race. Have we had many turn 8 incidents? Mate, we have had... Well, look, we've had some crackers. Probably not turn 8 so much, honestly. There were definitely a few at various random points, but I don't think turn 8's actually caused any incidents tonight that I can think of. We definitely had some issues with it in practice. I had a few drivers clipping that inside barrier, but no, I think we've had. Actually, no, I stand corrected. Sorry, I take that back. We have had 2 tonight. Now that I think of it, and yeah, okay, they were pretty epic ones, actually. But then some of the others that we've had kind of wiped those from my brain a little bit. Simon LA in 10th has finally caught Steve Warwick. But have a look right behind. This is Matt Cotter sliding that Camaro off the exit. So 10th about to be lapped by first. And to give you an idea of just how hard Cotter's pushing on. Look at that, no holds barred. Cotter's just charged on through. And he'll continue past Steve Warwick in no time at all. Honestly, the pace of Matt Cotter here tonight has just been something else entirely. And to see him come back here in race number 3 from 2 pretty significant incidents that he was caught up in within the first 5 laps has been nothing short of impressive. Nothing like a bit of red mist to really inspire you to find a bit of extra pace, I reckon. The gap now, 12 seconds back to McEwen. 6 laps left to run here. This final race of the final round of Season 2 here for AK Racing with the Gen 3 Supercars. And what a couple of races it has been for us to cover here with Simple Racing Broadcasts. Plenty of action on track from all of these drivers. And we haven't had too many occasions where we haven't had something going on somewhere throughout the field. Right now, Simon LA doing everything he can to stay with the group ahead, but many aspects, Steve Warwick just proving a little bit too quick at the moment. G'day Heather, hope you're well. Nathan doing a great job tonight, sitting in 6th for this final race of the season, and pretty comfortably so as well. He's got Scott Garrick just a few seconds off the back, but Hughes has been very, very composed all evening. And, some good results right throughout it. He lights the rear tyres up out of the final turn. You can see Garrick there wants to keep pushing on. Only 5 laps to go, 2.5 on seconds back to Scott Garrick. I reckon this will be a battle right to the line at this rate. The biggest challenge at the moment, of course, is that Garrick is on those soft tyres. If he was still in the hard compound, then it wouldn't be looking quite so threatening for Nathan Hughes. Heather, I would love to give you car numbers if there was any way for me to do so. I'm sorry. I have not got a way to actually show car numbers on the leaderboard with Assetto Corsa that I've found anyhow. It's one of those things we're still trying to figure out. There are a couple of different ways that we can do that, but position only. I'm sorry. But Garrick is pushing on very, very hard. Well, Gen 3 Supercars, and regardless of whether it's Assetto Corsa or iRacing, Gen 3 Supercars absolutely the most difficult cars to drive in any way, shape or form. You know, locked rear diff, very, very little in the way of any kind of ECU interference in terms of traction control, ABS, none of it. You've got to really know how to drive these things, and all of these guys do an amazing job. Scott Garrett really pushing on in that super behind. He's going to be on the tail of Hughes in no time. In terms of fastest laps, we're seeing a few that are down into the 21s. Matt Cotter, though, as soon as he got out onto the soft compound, at 20.365, just blindingly fast out front in that Camaro. Most of these guys, though, running into the 22s or thereabouts, with a few 21s scattered in for good measure as well. Yeah, certainly Matt Cotter setting the pace once he did get back out in front on the soft compound. He's not hanging around at all. McEwen, for his part, just needs to get home, really. Yeah, difficult is an understatement, Grim. They are... Look, if you're talking iRacing terms particularly, the Gen 3 supercars are like the Porsche Cup. Hughes has a big lock up there. Going to have to get underway here. Starts to push. Oh, big push into Scott Garrett, who gets shoved right out to the outside wall. Nothing like a little bit of panel rubbing in Gen 3 supercars. They are like the outgoing Porsche Cup car, but even harder to drive. They take something else entirely in terms of driving effort. You have to have such a well-controlled right foot to not just light the rears up through those first 3 gears, and it's an art form that I still haven't quite wrapped my head around. How Scott Garrett kept that out of the wall, I have no idea, but he's going to push on very, very hard here to try and have another crack at Nathan Hughes before this race is over. The gap for Cotter out in front, 15 seconds to McEwen, another 7.5 seconds further back to Brandon Pierce. Scott Garrett and Nathan Hughes, one of the closest battles on track at the moment. Yeah, a very, very good recovery. That could have ended very badly. That is one thing I will give Assetto Corsa over the iRacing supercar model. And bear in mind that this supercar model is very much built from the ground up by the guys at AK Racing. These cars will actually slide around and let you recover them, where the iRacing version of Gen 3 supercars, they very rarely have I found a driver who's capable of sliding one of them like we just saw from Garrick and actually recover it. There's only a couple of names that I could put forward as capable, and yeah, there's not many that can do it without it just snapping completely sideways. Yeah, it's a whole other world of racing, but it's super rewarding when you do manage to actually throw a supercar around a well-known track and get good pace out of it. I think the first time I gave Gen 3 supercars a go on iRacing, I was about 10 seconds off some of the slowest drivers in the leagues that I know that run them. As we see Garrick send it up the inside, tyre smoke off both cars there. Nathan Hughes is fighting for his absolute life here. He desperately wants to hold on to 6th position. He's overcooked it a bit. He might get lucky here though, because he's still on the inside for this next turn. Scott Garrett just can't quite capitalise, and he's managed to hold him off there, has Hughes. But Garrett right on his tail. We're down to just a couple of laps to go, and this one's going to go all the way to the line. Matt Cotter out in front, absolutely no one around. He'll get the white flag next time by. Alex McEwen caught in traffic, but not too concerned. Brandon Pierce, another 9 seconds further back, has just started that lap. Scott Garrett has just made the dive up the inside of Nathan Hughes. Hughes just getting on the brakes a little bit earlier, and Garrett decided to send it. Whether he's held just a little bit of extra in reserve in those tyres for that moment, I don't quite know, but it seems to have paid off. Now Nathan Hughes will have 1 lap plus 1 corner to try and claw back this position. It's going to be a tough one. Has a bit of a look up the final corner there. Tell you what, guys, I cannot wait for this track to hit iRacing as well, because it's going to be something pretty special, I reckon, to watch the Gen 3 supercars run through there. Nothing wrong with a 209 around Bathurst. That's a decent time. Anything sub 210 is very quick. By comparison, I can tell you the Bathurst 1000 Enduro that we covered a little earlier this year for Alliance Sim Racing, the times that the top few drivers were running over the mountain would have put them in the front 2 or 3 rows on last year's Bathurst grid in real life. That's how good some of the drivers are out there. in that sim racing world. Nathan Hughes, I don't know if he's got anything left in the tank here. Matt Cotter, out there on the final lap, is honestly not too far behind them. But have a look at Alex McEwen. Something's happened for Matt Cotter as we've looked away, and all of a sudden the gap down to 1.4 seconds. We might just have a battle for first on our hands after all here, folks. Matt Cotter's going to have to be really, really careful for the rest of this final lap, because McEwen has all of a sudden gone from 20 seconds to 1.2. There's nothing left in it, and he is charging behind Matt Cotter. Has he got enough time left, though, to actually catch this up? That's the question. Another 10th out of Cotter. Another 10th. We've only got a couple of corners left here. I don't think McEwen's quite going to get there, but geez, it's going to be close. Pulls 2 or 3 tenths. You can see how hard McEwen's pushing. Slides it through that turn. I think Cotter's going to hold it, but geez, it won't be by the margin that he expected. He must have had a big moment somewhere out there on track. In the end, though, one final turn, gets the wheels out into the grass. That won't be great for pulling it up, but it looks like it'll be just enough to hold on to it. And Matt Cotter lights it up, gets it sideways across the line. He'll bring home the win. Very, very happy with that finish, I have no doubt. Alex McEwen, though, what a drive. Not just tonight, but all season. Really caps off a brilliant championship as Hayden Wallace sends it into the tyre bundle. Brandon Pierce comes home in third, with Nick Mello just barely behind in fourth. Stephen Warwick now a little further back. And look at some of the gaps we've got here in this field. It's something else entirely. Scott Garrick and Nathan Hughes are going to go all the way to the line. These orders are a little bit out of whack to the actual finishing positions. I'm sorry, folks. Haven't quite worked that one out, but Garrick and Hughes will cross the line in that order. And there we go, 6th and 7th. That does get corrected. Nick Toppins even further back through the field. But what an amazing finish to that race. How on earth Alex McEwen managed to catch up that amount of time, I have no idea. We've missed something pretty impressive, but Matt Cotter finally gets to celebrate a victory tonight, and I don't doubt that what we're going to see from both him and McEwen is a copious amount of use of those rear tyres just to finish it off. Cotter will go in. Alex McEwen, mate, you've earned these burnouts. Let's see them. Here's your ASMR, Rob. Alex McEwen giving up entirely on controlling the burnout at this point. Those rear tyres way too overheated, but why not park it up against the pit wall and use up every last bit of it? A brilliant little burnout for a job very, very well done across this season for McEwen. He's definitely earned that, and tell you what, that is the one thing that iRacing really misses for me compared to Assetto Corsa, is some proper tyre smoke when you do get into celebrations like this. A great drive for all of the drivers here tonight to finish this one off. Tell you what, it's a final round, and it's certainly delivered for us here. The AK Racing Gen 3 Supercars Season 2 comes to a close here at Adelaide, and what a series of races we had tonight. It was pretty special all around, but that does bring us to the end
of this Gen 3 Supercars season. 3 races tonight, a championship decided by the time we made it to the first race, really. Just Alex McEwen needing to show up tonight, and that was pretty well enough for him to make it home. But, of course, this circuit delivered exactly the kind of drama that we expected, with a couple of big incidents tonight. So massive credit to all of the drivers for keeping things under control along the way as well. A massive thank you to AK Racing for bringing Simple Racing Broadcast on board to just catch the end of this season. We'll be back with them, of course, for the start of the new season next year. A little way to go yet, but plenty of racing action between now and then here on Simple Racing Broadcast. Do make sure you hit that little subscribe button, because we've got that charity event we mentioned earlier. The Pink Fins 400 will be here at Adelaide on iRacing in just over a week's time. We'd love to have you along, because it is an annual thing that we're doing alongside Alliance Sim Racing, just raising money for a very, very special cause. So we'd love to see you along for that one. Adelaide, of course, a perfect stage to bring this home tonight, but also will be, I'm pretty sure, some pretty awesome racing in about a week's time. So if this circuit arriving on iRacing gets you a little bit fired up, you're definitely not alone. I cannot wait. Been a pleasure calling the action again here for you tonight. My name is Jared Cole, and until next time, wherever we do see you tuning in next time, stay safe, enjoy your racing, and we will see you there. Until then, though, it's goodbye for now.